This is dedicated to the homies that was down since day one. Welcome to Drop D.
Cast with your hosts, Rob Clark and Doug Campbell.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is Rob Clark, one half of your hosting team for Quick Hits, a host podcast. Along with me, the host of the Dallas Action, the lovely and amenable Doug Campbell.
Lovely and amenable. Wow, what did I do to get on your good list, Rob? That was very nice of you to say. Hello, Rob. Hello, everyone. I am Doug Campbell, and this is Quick Hits number 20. Welcome aboard. Thanks for tuning in. Rob, I think we should just get right on started with the assassination research news and notes. What do you got for us, buddy?
All right, bud. I got something for you.
I'm ready.
I came across an interesting document from David Atlee Phillips, who, of course, was a part of the CIA, the Western Hemisphere chief at one point, I believe. And it's very interesting. And the letter is from, I wish it was dated, but it's not. It's got to be from the 70s. Well, no, there is a date here. And it's June 8th, 1980 is what he's referencing. So this letter has to be from the early 80s.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a letter to the intelligence officers, because, he formed like a retired intelligence officer, CIA intelligence officers club or whatever.
Yeah, it was the Association of Retired Intelligence Officers or something like that. And he was one of the charter members of this. Yeah, and for those, we'll give this is the guy, the CIA, I think he was chief of the Western Hemisphere operations at one point, that Antonio Veciana, Cuban exile Antonio Veciana, claimed, not erroneously, but in a misdirection way, he claimed that David Atlee Phillips was this guy he knew as Maurice Bishop, and that he saw him with Oswald in, I believe, September of '63. And now we know that it all to be complete hogwash, the whole Antonio Veciana thing. But that's who Rob's talking about here, the infamous David Atlee Phillips. So it's a letter that he wrote, you said, early 80s?
To the AFIO, I guess the American Former Intelligence Officers Organization.
Quite impressive title there.
Yeah, and on the advisory board of this committee is James Buckley, William Colby, Michael Collins, Alfred Koppel, General Robert Cushman, USMC retired, Derek Lee, Lydon Kirkpatrick, Gordon McClendon, and General Richard Stilwell.
Cushman, that was I believe he was a Marine general, and he was one of Nixon's favorite military advisors through Nixon's career, even back when he was a vice president. And when he was elected, when Nixon was elected, he installed Cushman as deputy director under Helms. And there's that famous scene in Oliver Stone's movie Nixon, where Helms, has got Cushman, fetching coffee for everybody else, and it kind of pisses Nixon off. But he was Nixon's right hand man there for a long time. Yeah,
and so he starts the letter off, "Dear AFIO members, this letter is being sent to the whole membership list. It is an authorized mailing approved by the board of directors in a vote on which I abstained. On June the 8th, 1980, a book entitled Conspiracy by Anthony Summers was published in New York. The author invites, indeed cajoles, the reader to believe that I was CIA's case officer for Lee Harvey Oswald. The theory expounded in the book is that I may have been point man for, quote, a renegade element of U.S. intelligence, unquote, and is based on allegations by a Cuban exile named Antonio Veciana. The book conveniently ignores the fact that the Cuban first related his story 27 months after he had been sent to prison and convicted on a narcotics charge. The book also fails to mention that the Cuban claimed that he had been convicted because the CIA had framed him. I was amazed that a reputable house would publish such a monstrous allegation without insisting that their author at least attempt to interview me. On June the 12th, I consulted an attorney, and despite the thousands of dollars in expenses he anticipated, I decided to sue the publisher and author for libel and possibly slander. Then, in a June 25th press conference, four, quote, private researchers declared that I was involved in the assassination of former Chilean Foreign Minister Orlando Letelier in Washington in 1976. Working with me in the cover-up of that murder, they said, were William F. Buckley Jr. and Ray Klein. Institutionally, the CIA, the AFIO, and Ray's Center for Strategic and International Studies were involved, the ludicrous accusation claimed. Although there were reporters present, only one newspaper carried the story, and it was New York World, which happens to be a successor to the Daily Worker. Interesting.
The Daily Worker.
Yeah, wasn't that one of Oswald's magazines he was subscribing to or something?
I believe so. I believe you're right.
Yeah. One of the accusants in the Letelier charge was a Fred Landis. He described himself as a consultant to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, a claim which the committee denies. Landis noted his connection with Counterspy. In May this year, he went to Jamaica to announce CIA involvement in elections there, as Philip Agee did previously. You will recall that on January 1st, an editor of the Covert Action Information Bulletin, for which Landis has written, released a list of alleged CIA employees in Kingston, Jamaica. 2 days later, the home of the man named by them as chief of station was machine gunned and bombed. Fortunately, no one was hurt. I managed to get through the month of June without being accused of being involved in the Lincoln assassination. Nevertheless, I decided to take legal action against the Letelier accusation and the Kennedy allegation.
Well played, Mr. Phillips.
Financing both suits is beyond my meager financial resources. Consequently, I am establishing Challenge, an intelligence officers' legal action fund. For a number of reasons, it is best that this effort not be connected with AFIO. Funds raised will be for direct expenses only, and any residue after the Kennedy Letelier suits will be set aside to assist and support other intelligence officers who may consider legal action against absurd charges. In the event of a financial settlement in my favor, I will return any monies advanced to me plus an appropriate contribution to the fund. One of the men who made the Letelier accusation is Donald Freed, author of a new book now in bookstores. His grotesque novel mixes fiction and real characters. Dick Helms is in the book, in true name, and alleged to be in Bolivia when Che Guevara is slain. A number of other fine intelligence officers now dead are defamed in the novel. Ex-intelligence officers have been battered around in recent years, and we've taken the beating. But I've decided that it's time to challenge this malicious treatment in public print and public forums. I believe a test case should be mounted against writers who defame ex-intelligence officers, dead or alive, by using their names in their egregious novels. I also believe that loyal ex-intelligence men and women working together should contemplate a class action suit against the people who reveal the identities of intelligence operatives abroad. Quote, or in parentheses, a prominent Washington lawyer has assured me this is feasible. Will you help me launch Challenge? This will be an intelligence officer's legal action, not defense, fund. Your contribution will be tax deductible retroactively when we receive such status, but that will take time. Meanwhile, a gift from you will help send a signal that ex-intelligence officers are now determined to challenge those who seem to believe that we don't have our own rights as citizens. Thanks for your help. Sincerely, David Atlee Phillips. Yes, at the bottom is a terrible, not terrible, a tearable, a removable portion of the letter. And enclosed, find my check payable to Challenge for X amount of dollars from name and address.
Oh, this is where people they just rip it off and fill it out. We're going to give you guys $100 or whatever.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I agree with him about Antonio Veciana.
Right.
100%. 100%. Again, the work of Dr. John Newman is showing that to be a complete falsehood. Complete bullshit. If you believe Antonio Veciana, if you believe that Wynn Johnson actually saw a piece of paper, a document that says David Atlee Phillips was Maurice Bishop, I have got a giant bridge in Phoenix, Arizona for you. You need it, I can sell it to you. But yeah, I agree 100% with him there.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting little tidbit.
Very interesting. I wonder how that lawsuit worked out, or even if he ever sued.
Well, I was trying to Google, and see. Oh, here it is. Hold on. Hold tight, Doug. I have it.
Breaking news. Rob has it. Rob, we have a breaking news theme.
Yes,
we do. For real. Check it out.
Oh, we do.
Breaking news from Rob. Okay, go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry.
In 1982, Freed and Landis and their publisher were named in a $230 million libel suit by Phillips and the AFIO. A settlement was reached in 1976 with Phillips receiving a retraction and an unspecified amount of money. Phillips donated these proceeds to the AFIO for the purpose of creating a legal defense for American intelligence officers who felt they were victims of libel.
Wow! So that was against that was against Freed for the novel, or is that the Veciana, the book about that had the Veciana stuff in it?
Is just against Donald Freed and Fred Landis.
Oh, okay.
Specifically about the 73 Chilean coup and the 76 assassination of Orlando Letelier.
Yeah, didn't they catch the Novo brothers for that? Two Cuban exiles named the Novo brothers. Didn't those guys go to jail for that?
I don't know. I always heard Frank Sturgis chopped his head off and kicked it like a soccer ball, and then took his watch.
No, that's Che Guevara.
Oh,
yeah. That's Che. Different guy. Did he? I'd never heard that Sturgis took his watch.
Yeah.
I did hear that. There's that picture of Sturgis holding a machine gun, taken in the Escambray Mountains there or whatever. Supposedly, he had just mowed down 56 Batistaites for Castro, and they had just put him in a mass grave, and he's wearing his fatigues there, and he's holding a machine gun. And allegedly, we're talking about Watergate burglar Frank Sturgis guys. And apparently that's what he had just, like mass murder, just mowed down 50 of these dudes because Castro told him to as a loyalty test. Man, there was nothing that dude wasn't involved in over the years. Nothing. If there were dirty tricks, in the Western Hemisphere, damn, Frank Sturgis had a hand in it, didn't he?
All right, Doug, tell me what you know about Harry Holmes. Not John Holmes.
And not Russ Holmes. Not Russ Holmes, the CIA guy, right? Harry Holmes. This is the Dallas, Texas Postmaster General guy.
Yes.
Shady character, that guy.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I was reading a deposition done of Harry Holmes regarding his activities surrounding the assassination, right?
Yeah.
This is for, I guess, done for the Warren Commission. But Harry Holmes states that he, of course, he's a veteran employee stationed in Dallas, and his office is 2 blocks away from the assassination scene.
Right.
It's on the opposite side of Dealey Plaza, and that he was looking out his window of the 5th floor watching the assassination scene.
Yep.
And it said he was viewing the motorcade with 7.5 times 50 binoculars. Okay?
Those are that's not some toy shit there. No, by any means.
No. Holmes is one of a number of witnesses, including depository employees, who said that after the shots, the presidential car came to a halt, or almost to a halt. His observation confirms the sheriff's deputies, especially, and that he saw most of the officers rush to the area west of the book depository building. Holmes described himself as a self-trained suspicioner.
Suspicioner.
Yeah, otherwise known as nosy motherfucker.
Yeah, there you go.
He said, looking at the area for a long period of time after the shooting, he saw nothing suspicious. But he's a trained suspicioner, Doug.
He didn't suspicion her very well that day then.
Right.
Yeah.
It says his connection with the assassination investigation was such that he didn't go to bed for 2 days straight. He could not sleep, Doug. He was just had so many thoughts running through his mind. He just could not sleep for 2 days. He even had the building in which he was located shaken. So I guess he had the entire postal annex there evacuated and searched. Shortly after the radio reports started coming in, an employee informed Holmes that Oswald had actually rented a postal box there at the annex, number 6225. Holmes obtained the original application and letter and turned it over to the FBI. He marked it to identify it the day of the assassination. From the time of the assassination until after Oswald was shot, the post office box was kept under a 24-hour surveillance. The rental was due to expire on December 31st of 1963, and only one key was ever given out for the box. He helped the FBI locate the money order used for the purchase of the weapons. They traced the money order and with the records from Klein's Sporting Goods, found the rifle had been shipped to Box 2915, Dallas, Maine Post Office, which Oswald had rented prior to his move to New Orleans.
Right.
Yeah, he continues to detail the steps in his investigation. He participated in the very last interrogation of Oswald at Captain Fritz's invitation.
Yeah, I do remember that he was there. His Warren Commission testimony is pretty interesting too. Holmes, I mean.
Yeah. He says his statement about the interrogation was dictated 4 weeks later on December 17th. And he had a few notes. And when the FBI asked him for a statement, he said he prepared it partly from notes and partly from memory. I have previously noted Holmes' appraisal of Oswald and the analysis of the report itself. His recollection here is consistent. Says Mr. Beelan, now I notice, well, you might just, without even looking at the memorandum, first just give us your general impression of what went on there. And Mr. Holmes said there was no formality to the interrogation. One man would question Oswald and another would interrupt with a different train of thought or something in connection. And it was sort of an informal questioning or interrogation. Oswald was quite composed. He answered readily those questions that he did want to answer.
You know, that's a sentiment.
He would cut off.
I'm sorry, Rob. I was going to say that's a sentiment. That's an observation made about Lee Oswald there, you know, in the aftermath of being arrested in the police department talking to authorities. That observation is pretty across the board. It's pretty standard. Yeah. Everybody says that about Lee Oswald. Super composed to an insane level. Like, yeah, and I don't mean he was insane. I mean, it's crazy how composed and how ready for that he seemed. Prepared.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And Holmes goes on to say that he would cut off just like with a knife anything that he did not want to answer. And those particular things that he didn't want to answer were anything that pertained to the assassination of the president or the shooting of Officer Tippit. He flatly denied any knowledge of either. He was not particularly obnoxious. He seemed to be intelligent. He seemed to be clear-minded. He seemed to have a good memory because in questioning him about the boxes, which I had original applications in front of me, he was pretty accurate. He knew the box numbers, and he answered these questions readily and answered them truthfully, as verified by the box rental applications that I had in front of me. Once Beelan has from a government witness a man clearly not partial to Oswald, blah, 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 blah. It says, now here we have a picture painted of Oswald as a man who spoke truthfully. Here we have a clear and concise statement that there was no planning to the interrogation. It was a completely haphazard affair and none of the attributes of a scientific police inquiry. And what Oswald refused to talk about, anything that pertained with the assassination or the shooting of Officer Tippit. This makes it clear that the accusations of lies against Oswald are false, except as they might relate to the assassination with which he was charged. And as a matter of fact, even those seemingly false statements Oswald is quoted as having made to the police may be as technically true as a continuous flow of technically true but false statements from the government witnesses throughout this entire proceeding. I think Holmes' testimony alone shatters completely the position of that it would believe nothing Oswald said because he lied.
What do you think of that statement, that last statement?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the generic excuse that, Oswald was untruthful and lied about everything. But when you actually go back and read the interrogation notes from Holmes, from Bookout, from Fritz, everything that he answered was true.
Well, and I think it seems like more to the point, maybe they're characterizing non-answers as dishonesty. I think what he's saying is he didn't lie to him because he didn't give him shit. How could he lie to him?
To incriminate himself.
Yeah, how could he lie to him if he didn't answer the questions?
Yeah, I mean, he would answer questions like, what were you wearing? What did you do when you left? Did you go home and change clothes? Yes, I changed into this, changed into that. But answers that they wanted pertaining to the actual murder of Kennedy and Tippit, he just refused to answer. Oswald's statements about a map found in his room explains that Oswald showed the markings on the map were places that he was seeking employment, and he referred to some of them by the Texas Employment Commission, not necessarily a map of Dallas where the president was going to be, X marks the spot where I'm going to kill him, blah, blah, blah. On the question of his politics, Holmes said that when asked if he was a communist, Oswald replied, I'm not a communist, I'm a Marxist, there is a difference. When Oswald was asked if he had fired a rifle since leaving the Marine Corps, he said only the only time Oswald showed any anger, according to Holmes, was on the persistence of the questioning about the Heidel card in the bill. Of course, Holmes said, and he showed a little anger, really the only time that he flared up on us.
When being asked about the Alec Heidel ID?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
If he didn't know anything about it, of course he's going to be like, what the fuck? I don't know anything about Alec Heidel.
Who in the hell is Heidel? Yeah, that kind of thing. I have no idea who the hell that is.
Alec Heidel. Yeah.
Yeah. I would maybe get angry too. What do you mean you found that in my wallet? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make me angry too.
He said that Oswald conceded to writing the names Fair Play for Cuba Committee and American Civil Liberties Union on Oswald's application for the rental of Box 6225 in Dallas. As conceding that Oswald, had entered those names on his application and said, I paid for it out of my own personal money. Holmes said Oswald declared that he did not rent a box in the names of these agencies and said, "I don't know why I put it on there." Holmes said further, Oswald wouldn't talk. And with regard to Oswald's questioning about the Fair Play for Cuba Committee, the questioning seems to have been about Oswald's own phony committee and not the real New York. Holmes said, "I got to the impression that Captain Fritz was trying to get out of him the fact that he was the head man or the president of it, and he kept evading that and would be real. Obviously, he was connected only with the New Orleans one, which consisted of nothing except Oswald and Heidel."
Well, it would be hard for him to disavow the Heidel alias given what happened in New Orleans and the flyers he was passing out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be hard for him to. I've never heard that name before. But at the same time, do you think at that point they had the flyers? Like, how quick did Dallas Police Department become aware of the flyers he had been passing out in July and August in New Orleans?
Probably so.
I guess
this was the last interrogation, so it would have been the morning of the 24th.
Okay, so yeah, I guess if they're mentioning the what happened in New Orleans, so they probably had the flyers by then in Dallas. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
But then it's hard for him to go, I don't know who the hell Heidel is if they have, well, you were passing this out and it's got Heidel's name on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The story of Oswald.
Maybe that's when he got angry.
Maybe so.
Maybe.
Did anyone say anything about Oswald saying anything about his leaving the school book depository after the shooting? And Holmes says, "As I remember, actually, in answer to questions there, he mentioned that when lunchtime came, one of the Negro employees asked him if he would like to sit and eat lunch with him. And he said, yes, but I can't go right now. He said, you go and take the elevator on down. No, he said, you go ahead, but send the elevator back up. He didn't say where, and he didn't mention what floor he was on, and nobody seemed to ask him." This episode, as related by Holmes, is exactly what a man whose work was taking him a few minutes extra would have done. He wasn't quite ready to go down on the elevator, and he asked that it be sent up so that when he was ready, he could go down. There is nothing abnormal or unusual about this action, especially in the context of other people on the 5th and 6th floors subsequently, none of whom saw Oswald up there. Holmes remembered something about Oswald's claim that a crew cut came rushing into the building as Oswald was leaving, showed Oswald his credentials, and asked for the location of a telephone, which Oswald said he pointed. It is my belief that the others present at the interrogation quoted Oswald as having said this man showed Secret Service credentials. I have never seen any interrogation intended to show whether or not a man made telephone calls to either the Secret Service or FBI Dallas offices.
Oh, that's interesting.
Nor have I seen,
I said, that's interesting.
Yeah. Nor have I seen any check of long-distance calls from this phone, of which the telephone company does. The failure of the commission to check this after Oswald had reported it to the police is a clear declaration that neither the commission nor the police agencies will dare look into anything that might substantiate anything that Oswald told the police. And that would tend, or might, in fact, totally clear him. So that's interesting. Asked him, did he?
Holmes has always sort of been a shady character, I guess, within the narrative. What we've learned about him, but it sounds. I guess I don't know who's the researcher that puts a lot of emphasis on him, maybe having something to do with framing Oswald. Is it Armstrong? Doesn't he come up a lot in John Armstrong's work? Harry D. Holmes.
Bart writes about it a lot as well.
Does he?
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like he's parts of that do not seem to me like he's towing the line. Not 100%.
Right. So they asked Holmes about did he admit that he went to Mexico? And Holmes' positive reply was, oh, yes. Holmes then goes further Oswald as having said that Oswald reported himself to have been angry when he was refused a Cuban visa. Holmes's recollection of Oswald's description of his own conduct at this point was he said he burst out of there. Oswald then said, according to Holmes, that he went to the Russian embassy and had no more success there when he was told, come back in 30 days or something like that. And he went out of there angry and disgusted. Beelan points out that this information was not included in Holmes's memorandum and asked if it is something you might have picked up from just reading papers. Or is this something you actually remember hearing? Holmes's response is, this is what he said in there.
See, hard for me to believe that Oswald said that, because I don't for a minute believe that was Oswald in Mexico.
Yeah.
But, I would...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, be interesting to find if we can find any other contemporaneous citation or contemporaneous support for Oswald admitting that he had been to Mexico. Because don't we have the Hoover thing? The 14-minute gap, the transcript of the phone call the next day between Johnson and Hoover. Doesn't Hoover say that he denies going to Mexico in the same paragraph where he says, and also we know he went to Cuba, but he won't tell us what he was doing in Cuba.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I'm drawing a blank on whether or not there are, he was said by anyone else to have admitted going to Mexico. That would be interesting to know.
Yeah, it seems like Holmes is just around to corroborate all this allegations against Oswald. Because he says on the incident of the lunchroom encounter, Holmes quotes Oswald as saying that Oswald was just standing there drinking a Coke at the time Officer Baker entered.
Well, that was always his story, right? Oswald's or Baker's?
Well, whether or not it was the second floor or the first floor is under hot debate.
Okay.
Allegedly, it's been in the second floor lunchroom. But there's plenty of evidence that encounter never even took place on the second floor, and more than likely took place on the first floor, actually.
Okay.
So he's saying there about the incident in the second floor lunchroom. Holmes quotes Oswald as saying that Oswald was standing there drinking a Coke at the time Officer Baker entered. But when Officer Baker entered the building, he entered on the first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just little details, man. Little details.
Little contradictions.
Yep. So I just thought there was some interesting stuff about Postal Inspector Harry Holmes and
very interesting.
His alleged recollections about, the interrogations of Oswald and his dealings with the assassination, as deposed by Beelan.
David Beelan. Man, what a snake that guy was, huh?
David Dickhead Beelan. Yep.
Well, all right, Rob. Thank you for that, sir. Very interesting. Never had read that
yes,
before.
Sir.
Probably need to peruse that again and educate myself a little bit on Mr. Holmes. Rob, I want to tell you and the rest of our ever-expanding audience about an online event I attended recently. It is an ongoing event, and I urge you, sir, and our listeners to attend, and everybody can attend. What it was it's a big, all-inclusive, once per month video conference call on Zoom for JFK assassination researchers and students. And like I say, it's all inclusive, dude. Anybody can attend, and the first 100 to register every month are free. It's pretty cool.
Zoom, and a boom, boom.
That's right. And you know who's putting it on, man? Two guys that you and I had lunch with once at a chicken joint in Alexandria, Virginia. Casey Quinlan and Brian Edwards. You remember that day? That was a nice lunch, man. Those are nice guys.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was the one time.
Yeah, what was it? Behind the Fence Line, I believe it was the story of Ed. What's his
Ed
fucking
Hoffman.
name? Ed Hoffman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this thing, Rob, that they're doing, Brian Edwards and Casey Quinlan, along with their partner David Knight, they have a research organization called Project JFK CSI Dallas. And they're doing this thing once a month. Everybody, and I'm talking to everybody because you guys can get on this too. It's called The Journey on The Journey, sorry about that, on the Trail of Truth in the Kennedy assassination. And like I said, that's exactly what it is, man. It's just a big Zoom meeting, swap ideas, that kind of thing. And the one I attended a few weeks ago, Bill Simpich, who actually turned me on to it, he attended. Bart Camp. And, dude, Rob, Bart was his regular rock star self. I mean, and I think I say it in the clip you guys are about to hear, but I'll say it here. Mr. Camp is fast establishing himself as the preeminent archivist of his generation doing this thing. Okay? And, dude, he was like somebody in the meeting. There was a name mentioned. I can't remember. And like 10 seconds later, Bart speaks up on Zoom. He's got another computer open and he's reading just an obscure document about this person. But doing that kind of thing through the whole meeting. Joseph Bax was there, attended. Larry Schnapf, Gary Shaw, like I say, Bill Simpich, Mr. Edwards, Mr. Knight, Mr. Quinlan. But they've had other people like Doug Horn has even joined in one or two of these things. But it was lots of fun, man. And I tell you what I did. I talked just for you, for us, and the rest of the – oh, wait a minute, Rob. You know what this means. It's a special report here on Quick Hits. Special report. Yeah, I figured that was some good dramatic music for that kind of thing. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But you know what I did, dude? This very morning, early in the morning, I got Casey Quinlan on the phone. And we talked a little bit about this thing because I wanted to pass word on to all our listeners. So let's take a look or take a listen. What do you think, Rob?
Let's hear from Casey.
Let's hear from Casey. In reference to the event that you heard me speaking to Rob about earlier, I have a man on the phone with me right now. His name is Casey J. Quinlan. Everybody should be aware of who Mr. Casey is. Intrepid researcher. He is the recipient of, I believe, the New Horizon Award at Lancer one year. He'll correct me in a minute if I'm wrong about that award. But Casey Quinlan, he wrote the textbook on Grassy Knoll witness Ed Hoffman, with his partner Brian Edwards, and he's with us to talk about, here for a minute on Quick Hits, The Journey. Mr. Quinlan, welcome to Quick Hits, buddy.
Hey, good to be here, Doug, with you.
So you guys, first of all, you have a research organization that I'm sure a lot of our listeners.
I love it, baby.
Freudian slip. Project JFK CSI Dallas with your partners, Mr. Brian Edwards, whom I've also met, and Mr. David Knight, whom I have not. Tell me about Project JFK CSI Dallas, dude.
Well, Project JFK was originally my baby when I started back in 1974, 1975, and I brought it right directly into the middle-level schools and the high schools and at the college level. And it was an organization that was put together for the purpose of studying the assassinations in the 1960s, looking directly at John F. Kennedy's assassination, Martin Luther King's assassination, and Robert Kennedy's assassination, as well as other extremities that were taking place, such as the Vietnam War and also what we call the Second Civil War, the idea of race relations in American society, and which is still going on today.
Yeah, hot and heavy. It hadn't changed. In my opinion, it hadn't changed much, you know. that particular part of it. But I want to talk to you about a really neat event that you guys have put together. It's a monthly thing that I participated in just a couple weeks ago, called The Journey on the Trail of Truth in the Kennedy Assassination. Now, guys, what this is to the listeners, again, it's basically a big research Zoom meeting for researchers and people that study the Kennedy assassination, right? Right, Casey?
That is correct.
On the additional information, details of the event, I'm going to read from your website here. Project JFK CSI Dallas presents The Journey on the Trail of Truth in the JFK Assassination, a monthly gathering and sharing of ideas and research in the case from 1963 to 2021. Join us for this 90-minute meeting hosted on Zoom. They can go to your website, Casey, Project JFK CSI Dallas /events. Is that correct? Do I have that right? Let me see.
That is correct, yes.
/events and get a free ticket. But now this is a great idea, man. Where'd you guys get the idea to do this?
Well, we had heard several podcasts throughout the years, got involved in some of those chat rooms and things. And so we decided that we needed to keep this thing alive, and to keep it alive with not only journalists, but actual researchers, people who are authors of books, and new material that is being opened up almost on a daily basis in the National Archives, which are the document releases. And we have several of them coming up here in the near future. So we are 58 years into the aftermath of the assassination of President Kennedy, and we still don't have all the answers. But little by little, some of our researchers and some of the people that we have online are indicating to us through their research that they're going to keep this thing alive as long as they possibly can until all of the documents are released.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. You know, I would say roughly 99% of the research content on the Dallas action is from the new releases anymore. You know what I mean? And to get them released is one thing. To get them all studied and collated in the proper context, and man, that's going to be a big battle. But guys, this event, the next one is Saturday, April 17th at 2021 at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. 1 p.m. Central, that'd be 2 p.m. Eastern. And again, you can go to their website, Project JFK CSI Dallas /event. You'll see a thing there. It'll say free tickets. Click on the link below. You click on that. You register. And you've even got a really great email notification system. I think when I signed up, Casey, for the event, I got a notification like a week before, and then the day before, and then like an hour before, letting you know that the thing's going to start. But it's really cool. And I tell you who turned me on to this, Casey, was Bill Simpich, my buddy Bill. And now some of the people that participated in this meeting, listeners, dear listeners, and again, I encourage you guys to do this as well. All the listeners, come join us. But Bart Camp, Bill Simpich, Gary Shaw, Larry Schnapf, you, David Knight, Brian Edwards, and I know I'm probably missing a prominent name or two that was there.
Well, you also had, in fact, I think the month before, we had a number of people that kind of like you were just getting online, and Doug Horn and David Mantic, Dr. David Mantic, and little by little, if they have time, they will zoom in with us and talk and add what is going on in their life and some of the information that they are actually getting access to. We were trying to get Professor Tink Thompson in. He's affiliated with the Sixth Floor Museum, and right now he can't get free of that, but that's okay. He's just put out a brand new book called Last Second in Dallas, and we were going to have him on to at least try to explain what the book is about. Most of us have already read it and have a pretty good idea, but it's nice to get the author's point of view and just to see where where they're coming from and where they intend to go. But people like that, Doug Horn, people who have been on the Assassinations Record and Review Board from 1992 to 1997 have just been a positive thing for us. And not only that, we are here not only as researchers, writers, and speakers, but we want to keep this thing alive for a lot of reasons. Number one is that we don't have all the answers. Number two, these people who've made it kind of a lifetime endeavor on their part, and I know I have for 58 years. My wife has asked me several times. She goes, "When is this going to end?" And I said, "They are just starting to release the documents on this, so I'm not sure if it ever will end."
My wife's just glad I have a hobby, you know.
Well, it is one of those things. I used to teach high school and college for about 40 years, and just to find ways to bring this into the classroom and show the kids what it's like to examine material like this, and especially parallel it with the United States government and the Constitution. And it's very, very interesting to look at that. And I know Larry Schnapp and also several of the lawyers that we have, Bill Simpich being one of them, these guys fit in real good and give us some background information on how they would handle.
Well, at the last Zoom meeting a couple weeks ago, I believe Larry Schnapp and Bill Simpich, they were kind of strategizing about, document releases and different things and dealing with the government in a lawyerly way. And it was, that was neat. That was neat to witness. They were sort of putting together, I can't remember exactly what they were talking about, but kind of a plan of action about something. And pretty exciting stuff, man. Guys, please, you join us on April 17th for sure. And you know what, Casey, I've told several people I did what Mr. Simpich did. I paid it forward. Been telling several people trying to get him in there on it, and one of them is Rob, my illustrious co-host, and my buddy Mike Swanson, who just wrote a fantastic book about the Vietnam War. All
right.
Yeah. So maybe, hopefully they'll all join us. But guys, Casey, thank you, buddy, for sitting in on Quick Hits with us today.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
All right, and guys, remember that's Project JFK, CSI Dallas, Investigative Research and Speakers Bureau, Casey J. Quinlan, Brian K. Edwards, and David Knight. The website is projectjfk.com. Go to projectjfk.com/events to the Eventbrite section and sign up. Get an invite. It's free. It's free. There were like 35 people, names that you would know there. When I was there, I'm going to be there. Casey's going to be there, right, Casey?
I will be there full force.
Full force. All right. Mr. Quinlan, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Doug.
Back to you, Rob.
Well, Doug, that's definitely something cool that Casey and are doing. It's almost kind of like a very informal mini conference. It sounds very cool idea, and definitely, folks, if you're interested, make sure you check out the website. And like I said, like Doug said, the first 100 people to respond are in free of charge, and you can lock horns with some of the greatest researchers and authors in the Kennedy assassination, alive and active today.
That's right. In real time for free once a month on a Saturday afternoon. It's a pretty cool deal. Guys, join us because I'm going to be there. I'm going to try anyway. Absolutely. And again, Mr. Quinlan, I know you're listening. Thank you, buddy, for joining me this morning. Now, Rob, I have a question for you, sir.
Pray tell.
What do you know? We're gonna go over a few things. What do you know about Operation Mockingbird?
Operation Mockingbird, is that CIA operation involving the media?
It
perhaps?
is. Absolutely. Now, I want to read a document, an interesting, very short document that I found. But first, I thought we would refresh everybody's memory about Operation Mockingbird. Just a little context, okay? Because we're going to ask a question or two once we read this. It's pretty interesting, this document. But before we get to that, I forgot. Another headline. We got another headline for. I can't go back and play the special report music, but we have another headline. I woke up the other morning to the headline that said, "Convicted Watergate conspirator and conservative radio personality G. Gordon Liddy dead at age 90." Did you see that?
I did.
I prefer the headline, "Proactive political fuckery technician and disinfo specialist 90 meets Satan." And that's the way I'm going to report it on the show. So there you go. Not feeling
he actually, Doug, he actually used to be on the radio here in the D.C. area.
Oh, I've heard his show, man, with the Miami Vice music and shit.
He's in the 90s. And, dude, he would take a piss on the air in a bottle while he's talking, and like you could hear it.
Really?
He's like, "Excuse me for just a second," and he would just take a piss in the bottle and then come back. Yeah,
classy, keeping it classy. Yeah, man, that guy. He was exhibiting just as much class at that point in his life as he did in the 60s and 70s, no doubt.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He was a man's man.
I remember, now I did, I've heard his show a couple of times, and the one thing I do remember funny that I heard him say was, like somebody asked him about guns, like, "Liddy, you're a convicted felon. You it was like a listener email or something, you're not allowed to have guns, but you talk about them all the time." And he's like, "Yes, I'm a convicted felon. I'm not allowed to own guns. Mrs. Liddy, however, owns several hundred, and if she chooses to keep a pistol under my pillow, who am I to argue with her?" Kind of made a little sense. But no, I'm not feeling a whole lot of remorse or, compassion for the death of G. Gordon Liddy, considering how much I've studied Watergate,
He's lived a nice, long life.
Yeah, yes, he did. Hopefully I'll get to live as long as him, or as long as he did, anyway.
Right.
Hopefully I'll get 90 years too. But back to Mockingbird. I want to Operation Mockingbird. This is just a little primer here. And actually this, Rob, comes from one of my favorite websites that deals in our thing, and that is theblackvault.com. Man, we love that website, don't we?
Yeah, love the Black Vault.
Dude, it rocks. It rocks. Operation Mockingbird, according to the Black Vault, was an alleged secret campaign by the United States Central Intelligence Agency to influence media. Begun in the 1950s, it was said to be initially organized by Cord Meyer and Alan Dulles. It was later led by a man named Frank Wisner when Dulles became head of the CIA. The organization recruited leading American journalists into a network to help present the CIA's views and funded some student and cultural organizations, magazines as fronts. As it developed, it also worked to influence foreign media and political campaigns in addition to activities by other operating units of the CIA. Now, Mockingbird also, as we know, got inside publishing houses too, right, Rob? Basically.
Oh, yeah. Everything you can imagine.
Everything you can imagine, dude. Placing CIA's people inside the media for influence and control. That's the only reason. And along with journalists.
I have been accused of being CIA myself, Doug, fairly recently.
Well, man, let me tell you. You know what? If we were CIA, I think our cryptonym would be ZR Magnum Dong.
And Amshart.
AM Shart. Yeah. But what they're doing is, I've known you for a long time. I'm still not 100% sure you're not. I'll just go ahead and tell you that now.
You never know.
That's That's not the
If I was, I'd probably be driving a nicer car.
that was not the
that's neither here
measured
nor there.
response I was trying to solicit out of you, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Or it was no wait, that response was too measured, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, well, yeah, along with journalists, with the journalists, they infiltrated upper management. They got their people into upper management on an editorial level. This we know. Again, to influence and control content. Now, tell me, I'm sure, Rob, that journalists abided by what they assumed were legitimate editorial decisions, right? But in
Right.
fact, were CIA Mockingbird, CIA/Mockingbird actually controlling the narrative? It's gatekeeping, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, now, what do you know about an operation called QK Enchant? CIA cryptonym, QK Enchant.
I've heard of it, but I forget exactly what it was.
It says QK Enchant. Wasn't that the cryptonym that Clay Shaw received his operational clearance for as well? I believe so.
Yeah, it might have just been like a program where they interviewed like international businessmen or about foreign countries, things like that.
Well, according to the Mary Farrell CIA cryptonym page, Rob, QK Enchant was an indicator used by Central Cover Staff and the Office of Security with a program for clearing businesses, like you said, and other entities with access to classified material. With a QK Enchant clearance, an individual or entity could be used as a CIA cutout. All right? Now, to the document that I ran across, and this is from the April of 2018 document release. You ready? It's a CIA document dated 16 May of 1968. Subject, Sonnenberg Benjamin. Benjamin Sonnenberg. Ring any bells?
Nope.
All right, here's what it says. Subject was granted a CSA on 29 June 1959 for use under Project QK Enchant. This was revalidated on 26 July 1965 for continued use under the same project. A Dun and Bradstreet report dated 14 April 1959 on the publishing firm of Henry Holt and Company Incorporated listed the subject as a director of this publishing firm. Mark Lane's book Rush to Judgment was published by Holt, Reinhardt, and Winston Incorporated, 383 Madison Avenue, New York City. The address of Henry Holt and Company Incorporated is also 383 Madison Avenue, New York City, ostensibly the same publishing firm. The memo goes on to say this might explain Mark Lane's connection with Sonnenberg. Informants Informants interviewed during a 1965 investigation advised that the subject's association with Alfred K. Stern and with Stephen Laird, apparently they were communists, was strictly business, and the subject had not had any interest in them for years. All right, now this guy had a cutout clearance for QK Enchant. He was on the board of directors of the publisher that published Rush to Judgment. Now, the document concludes by saying Mark Lane said on the acknowledgement page of Rush to Judgment, quote, "I am deeply indebted to Benjamin Sonnenberg, whose numerous and invaluable suggestions have found their way into this volume." End document. So
Interesting.
What are we to make of this?
Was he affiliated at all with Craftsman Tools?
Do what now? Say that again?
I said, was he affiliated in any way with Craftsman Tools?
Mark Lane or
Such as
Sonnenberg?
pliers.
Pliers?
Sonnenberg.
He was a DeWalt man, Rob. He was a DeWalt man. Yeah. He used to mispronounce it Black and Dicker apparently. But here's my
I know
question.
Mr. Lane was always fond of the old pliers to the balls.
That's what we hear, according to the FBI. But, Rob, this one's CIA, so we got to take it more seriously.
Yes.
Here's my question. And we
Really
went,
different.
going back to what I said before, what we were talking about before with Mockingbird and journalists and middle management, on the editorial side, controlling the narrative. Again, many journalists probably went along with editorial decisions thinking that they were legitimate editorial decisions, not knowing that they were being influenced by Mockingbird, this CIA influencing operation. My question would be, it would be interesting. I would love to see like an original manuscript pre-publication of Rush to Judgment. See what the differences are. And that leads to the question, did Mark Lane know? Was he complicit? Or, is it a situation where editorial decisions, things were excised from Rush to Judgment or changed, and Mark Lane innocently is under the impression that they're legitimate editorial decisions made by this Sonnenberg, when in fact they're not. They're trying to control the narrative, and him being a dupe or a victim here. I guess
Right. Well, I posit this, Doug. As much shit as Mark Lane has attached himself to over the years, as many questionable areas of history, I just have to question whether or not it's all just a big coincidence.
Well,
That's just me.
And I'll take a lot of heat for saying this, but the Mark Lane People's Temple nexus really cast that dude in a different light than, in my opinion, he would be cast had he not gotten involved with Jim Jones and the People's Temple. Because there's a lot of shady shit there, man. I'm sorry. And I'll catch a lot of hell from listeners, I'm sure, for saying that. But something about that situation ain't kosher. Ain't kosher at all.
Well, Doug, it's funny that you bring up Mark Lane because he's actually part of the next story that I want to tell you about.
All right, lay it
and
on
for those
me.
of you out there who think that we actually plan this shit, we don't.
We don't. It just kind of happens.
Good old synchronicity, folks.
Synchronicity.
No shit.
So you got a Mark Lane piece too.
Yeah.
I ran across this one sometime last year, and it's just been in my quick hits, my computer file for like future quick hit stuff. I've been sitting on it for months. Just that I'll do the Mark
I've been
Lane
sitting
thing.
on this for months.
All right, well, lay it on me.
All right.
If
this
it's about a
comes
nail,
from,
if it's got anything to do with a nail gun, I don't want to hear it.
Nah. Well, no. But there's some interesting characters named in here. And this is actually must have been just after Mark Lane escaped from Africa with the skin of his nut still attached, after the whole Jim Jones fiasco down there. Because this story comes from June 1979. June the 2nd. Bourbon Street Kingpin Vice Lord, otherwise known as what we call now mafioso, William Big Dick Rick Colacurcio Jr.
Easy for you to say.
You can't make this shit up.
His name was Big Dick Petruccio?
Big Dick Rick Colacurcio Jr.
Wow.
Posted $100,000 cashier check as bond less than a half an hour after his arraignment on racketeering charges Friday. So this cat, they arrested him, arraigned him, and he wrote out $100,000 check and said, "Here you go."
Man, that must be nice, huh?
Yeah. 57 was arraigned before U.S. Magistrate Ingard Johansson, who set the $100,000 bond after Colacurcio stated he is a self-employed as a bar owner. Colacurcio gave his address as 520 7 Bourbon Street, and said he has approximately $180,000 in his bank accounts and about $185,000 in local real estate. The check is good, I swear. So,
and this big dick Colacurio.
Big Dick Rick Colacurio, yeah.
I can't imagine going through life being known as Big Dick Rick.
Well, hopefully he lived up to it.
Oh, wow.
Colacucio's attorney for the arraignment, Ed Castaigne, asked Johansson not to remain Colacucio to jail because he intended to post a bond. Johansson said that he would remain in jail until he posted the bond, and 20 minutes later, his son, Big Dick Rick Colacucio III, arrived with the cashier's check.
So does he tell, you know how, like, if you know guys, like a guy's named Dale and he's got a son, Dale Jr., and they get Little Dale, there's Dale and Little Dale, you know, you think that there was Big Dick Rick and Little Big Dick Rick?
Yeah,
I'm little Big Dick Rick. That's my paw. He's Big Dick Rick.
FBI agents personally verified that the check was legitimate, and Mr. Colacucio was released. He will be represented at trial by local criminal trial attorney F. Irvin Diamond, who is famous for representing Clay Shaw in his trial. Now, here's where it gets interesting, Doug. A complaint filed against Colacucio by the Federal Organized Crime and Racketeering Strike Force alleges 13 overt acts in violation of the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations RICO statute.
Oh, wow.
Complaint alleges Colacucio paid 3 undercover New Orleans police officers and 1 FBI agent 10 bribes totaling $3,600 between January 29th and April 17th to protect his alleged gambling operation. Okay? So then it goes on. A couple of his associates, Konstantinos Rallis and Theodoros Teddy Dimopoulos, were also arraigned and charged under the RICO Act.
Wait, you said Theodoros Teddy, right? Teddy?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't misunderstand you there.
Also arrested on RICO charges and arraigned Friday before Johansson were, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Orestes Pena.
Oh, wow.
55 of Argonne Boulevard, accused of paying 12 bribes to an undercover officer totaling $3,400 between September of 78 and January of 79. He described himself as being in the real estate business and claimed to own 4 bars, 2 on Decatur Street, worth a total of $215,000. He said he had about $40,000 in the bank. So Johansson set his bond at $75,000, and $75,000 is kind of light. Pena then proceeded to post a surety bond. Okay?
All right.
And now it goes on to list a bunch of other folks that they had wrapped up in the New Orleans Vice Roundup. Okay?
All right.
But I told you this was about Mark Lane, right? I did, and I'm not lying. We'll get there, I promise.
Oh, man, I'm right with you. I'm hanging on every word, buddy.
So, let's see. I'm trying to skip through here. They're talking about another guy named Gomez. Those officers have been posing as dirty cops and accepting $20,000 in protection money from bar operators and others to look the other way while prostitution, gambling, and other illegal activities flourished in the French Quarter. Also on that trip, source said, was Orleans Parish Criminal Sheriff's Office Deputy Andreas Pena, brother of another of those arrested on federal RICO charges, Orestes Pena, owner of the raided Havana bar.
Orestes Pena had a brother who was a sheriff's deputy.
Yes.
Well, I didn't know that.
And he was a dirty cop.
Well, that we could have guessed.
Sources say that Deputy Pena, who could not be reached for comment, may also be subpoenaed to appear before the grand jury. The same sources strongly emphasized that represented jurors. All right, we're getting there. I promise. Let's see. I'm trying to get to the Mark Lane part. This is just more about the investigation of the Hoors.
The Hoors?
Dude, they paraded busloads of prostitutes and transvestite into court. Okay? To
a busload of Hoors?
Yeah. I'm trying to find it. He characterized the Los Amantes as a seamen's bar and said he was aware of nothing going on. Asked if he ever visited the building, Gomez said, "Sure, I went there 10 or 15 times. I own the building." They were talking about $5 trips upstairs, if you know what I'm saying.
If you know what I mean. I say no more.
Yeah, and there's a picture with a hooer walking by in the newspaper that says, "Amused police point the way to central lockup. One of the girls of Decatur Street gets abundant help from the leering policeman."
Ah, wow. She had him vexed there.
Yeah, so Gomez was suspended without pay for 30 days and 69 after it was discovered that he had met with mafia boss Carlos Marcello at Marcello's Metairie home. Gomez told investigators that he visited Marcello to discuss private real estate transactions. What a game, sighed a policewoman watching the buses unload their cargo of hookers at Central Lockup Thursday night. She was standing off to one side. In front of her was the wisecracking press and a second line of smirking policemen. They formed a corridor from the door of the buses directly into the lockup. The ladies were catcalling from their bus. They weren't overly witty, but virtually everything they shouted was greeted with howls from an audience ever starved for color. They'd been driven in two buses, male transvestites in one and real ladies in another. But there was obviously some overlap. The real ladies were noisy. The fake ladies were much quieter, and a few swished for the television cameras like beauty pageant winners strutting down a white-lit runway in Miami Beach.
Oh, man.
Was
Dean Andrews there passing out business cards?
Oh, they seemed to enjoy the stroll into the jail almost as much as the hungry bystanders enjoyed watching it.
Hungry? Oh,
By
my
and
goodness.
large, the fake ladies' taste seemed to run to leather and soft cotton prints with slits. The real ladies...
That's what my tastes run to, actually.
The real ladies wore skimpier and louder clothes, but nearly everyone on both buses was in spiked heels. They make anybody's legs look longer. Jesus Christ, who wrote this shit? Once the transvestite bus was empty, the real ladies got the spotlight, and their banter with the onlookers grew positively furious. "Where's Channel 4 at? I want to tell what an injustice this is," one said. "We ain't no dogs," shouted another. "Where's my..." They began filing off their bus. "Honey, if you can't make bail, call God. I think that's Max. I ain't never seen nobody so proud of their work. Listen, you guys make a living. Why can't we?" asked one of the last hookers to get off the bus. The lights blinded a few of the women, and they lurched into the median police lines. Some covered their faces with coats and hats and found they couldn't see and ran Indy and proceeded to fall down.
You know what? The one quote of the prostitute. You know, y'all can make a living. Why can't we? And that reminds me of something I heard George Carlin say one time. He's like, "Why is it illegal to sell something that it's perfectly legal to give away?"
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Astute observation, Douglas.
Why, thank you. I totally stole that from George Carlin. And we'll probably get angry emails.
Pale, very sick. One particular specimen blithely raised her shirt over her head, baring her breast and eliciting and cooing sounds from male members of the audience. A pale, very sick-looking man wobbled off the transvestite bus. He was trembling terribly and walking very slowly with a cane.
Oh,
his
my
shirt
goodness.
was unbuttoned, and he had braces on his lips. He held up the procession. God, look at him, somebody said.
So was that Mark Lane?
Made it inside. No, not yet.
No, not yet.
When he finally made it inside, people started laughing again, but a little more urgently this time. They couldn't help it. No one likes to think about human degradation. It's really not very funny, but tonight it apparently was. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I promise this was about Mark Lane. So, when we get to the time of the actual trial of old Big Dick Rick Colicurcio, okay? Guess who was his attorney?
Mark Lane.
Attorney Mark Lane, representing Colicurcio, said perhaps his client was prosecuted because his name ends in a vowel.
Maybe it's because his name begins with Big Dick.
Quite possible. Mark Lane went on to say that it's unfair for someone to be prosecuted because he's Italian or anything else. Lane said the police reasoning was because he's Italian, he must be involved in some kind of criminal activity. Lane told the jury, it's time to put a leash on the RICO Act because it's being used against people for whom it was never intended. Somewhere along the line, you've gotten out of control, right?
Well, I can't get behind Mark Lane, his sentiment there that the RICO statute needs to be done away with. I think the RICO statute's done a tremendous amount of good over the years. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's allowed them to really go after organized crime. And if you can't do it one way, the RICO Act really is very wide, encompassing, way to do it.
It enabled Giuliani to really cripple the five families of New York, and it's gonna enable the current Justice Department to get Giuliani. So it's a great thing.
Oh yeah, Lane told the jury they would have you believe that no one on the New Orleans Police Department, including the Vice Squad, ever took a bribe in the French Quarter. Everybody was doing it, Doug. Colicurcio, he said, sponsored a Big Daddy's Vice Squad baseball team and even bought the players' uniforms. Lane said that if he wanted to bribe somebody, he could have gone to them first. He said the police omitted this earliest tape conversations when he said Colicurcio firmly said no to an undercover cop's suggestion of a bribe. But he just sponsored the Vice Squad baseball team out of the kindness of his heart.
The Vice Squad, interesting, yeah. Of all the departments, he didn't sponsor internal affairs. Yeah,
right.
The people that are going to go after the cops taking bribes. No, we're gonna buy the Vice guys the spiffy uniforms. That's definitely to curry favor. I don't think you can read that any other way.
Exactly. And since Mark Lane was he was already in New Orleans, guess who else he decided to represent? as part of this whole circus trial.
Who's that? Pena?
Orestes Pena.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Big shock.
Yep. He says Pena and Mr. Rodriguez were convicted several weeks ago by juries after an 8-day trial, during which it shows that they were renting rooms above the Habana bar to prostitutes so that they ply their trade. Defense attorneys Mark Lane, April Ferguson, and Joseph Marcow said they will appeal the convictions to the U.S. 5th Circuit Court of Appeals, and Judge Gordon released the defendants on their previously posted bonds of $75,000 and $50,000 respectively, pending this appeal. Before passing sentence, Judge Gordon pointed out that the defendants faced a maximum penalty of 20 years, a $25,000 fine, or both on each of the 2 counts, and said he thought it a judge's duty to defendants and society to state why he does what he does in the discharge of an awesome responsibility. He asserted the facts and circumstances in this case do not fit the mold. When the United States Congress passed the statute, Congress intended to suppress the so-called mafia. The judge added that he was informed that subsequent to the passage of the anti-racketeering statute, the United States Attorney General told U.S. attorneys around the country not to seek convictions under the law without specific permission. Lane argued in court that the law is subject to widespread abuse. He added, that worries me. If I don't want to fashion a sentence to encourage prosecutors to use this statute, and I don't believe the public interest is to be served by such a lengthy sentence for such a meager crime, I'm just discharging any obligation each of you had to know what you did was wrong, and the factor was one of greed. That's Judge Gordon telling the defendants he believed that they had learned their lesson, but did not mean to comfort them in any way. The case was a result of a long investigation of prostitution activities on Decatur Street and culminated in a massive raid on bars in the area on May 31st of 79, in which many alleged prostitutes were arrested and federal cases were filed against several bar owners. Now, back to the case of Pena and Ms. Rodriguez. They were the first of those to be tried, and during the investigation, New Orleans police officers and agents of the FBI posed as corrupt policemen and accepted bribes from Pena and his co-defendant. The defense was one based on the theory of entrapment and wrongdoing argued by Lane. Defense attorney attempted to show during the trial that police officers engaged in sexual activity with the prostitutes during the probe. In a lengthy appeal for mercy on behalf of his defendants.
So
Lane,
they were probing while probing.
Yeah, apparently so. Lane launched into a harangue directed at federal prosecutors and law enforcement officers, as well as Police Superintendent James Parsons. He charged that the same activities attributed to the defendants take place at leading New Orleans hotels, and that the hotels get a percentage of the prostitution money. He charged that the case was an example of selective prosecution. Lane attacked Parsons, saying that prostitution is still going on in the Decatur Street area. He related a long history of Pena's life and claimed that the defendant had worked for the FBI, the CIA, and had helped the Warren Commission in the probe of President Kennedy's assassination.
Pena had worked for
crime.
the CIA. That's a new one.
We are dealing with too little people, he argued to Judge Gordon. Now, the outcome, my friend.
Pena worked for the CIA.
Yeah.
Lane said.
Yep.
Now, it's pretty well known he was, isn't it? He was now, I don't know if he was an informant so much with the FBI. I guess so. He was threatened by Warren DeBreeze, and wow, we know he had an association with the FBI, but as far as working for CIA, I think that's a new one on me. I may be mistaken.
Yeah, like that. So, what was Lane able to get from Mr. Pena? It goes on to say, before passing sentences on Orestes Pena, owner of the Havana Bar, and Amelia Rodriguez, his manager, Judge Gordon commented that the facts and circumstances of the case did not fit the mold when Congress passed the RICO Act, under which the defendants were charged and convicted. Accordingly, he sentenced Orestes Pena to serve 6 months in jail and pay a fine of $5,000. He also was placed on probation for 3 years with a special condition that he not operate or manage a bar.
Man, that's what he did.
Woman was sentenced to pay a fine. Yeah. The Rodriguez woman was sentenced to pay a fine of $1,000 and placed on probation for 3 years with a special condition that she is not to obtain employment, requiring her to work in a bar. So Judge Gordon imposed the sentences on 2 counts, one charge of conspiracy to violate the Federal RICO Act and the other charging I must have not cut that off. I must have cut that off.
Orestes Pena was convicted under a RICO statute, and Mark Lane was his lawyer.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I did not know that. That's crazy.
Right?
And I didn't know his publisher was a QK and Chance CIA cutout either.
Right.
That he specifically thanked in the acknowledgments page. Again, I'd love to know, were there any editorial decisions where Lane went, but why? And the guy goes, just trust me, we have to. When it just turned out that, like we don't want him to publish that,
Which is interesting. What the hell is Mark Lane doing in freaking New Orleans in 1979, dude?
Hustling, man. Wait, 79. You're right, dude. That was right on the heels of him barely making it out of the jungles of South America, by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah.
Busy cat. And then he was then he got embroiled in the E. Howard Hunt, Liberty Lobby, Marita Lorenz thing that ultimately culminated in his book Plausible Denial. That was right around that same time too, wasn't it? Late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah. That's why I say, it just, something doesn't smell right. That Mark Lane is around all these big time, FBI, CIA, government interactions with high profile people and cases all over the place. And he's always there. He's around.
And wasn't
right in the middle of
Yeah, right there with the Warren Commission. He was brought in by Marguerite Oswald to represent Lee Oswald.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, he pretty much volunteered his services. He just happened to, come across Marguerite, if you believe that.
Well,
on an airplane, whatever. But.
We can. That's the official story. We can speculate or wonder whether or not he volunteered or he was directed. But that
she sure as hell didn't pay him because she didn't have no money.
No. I don't know. Did she get a big outpouring of financial support from the American public and the world the way Marina and Mrs. Tippett did?
I don't think so.
Yeah, she didn't look like she was taking any Caribbean vacations, did she?
Certainly not.
Certainly not. Well, that's very interesting. I didn't know that Mr. Lane and Mr. Pena had an association later. Very interesting. So, what do you think? You think he was sent down there to look after Pena, or just decided to?
I don't know, because he was down there for the mafia first. This was right at the beginning when they were, trying to, get these gangsters on all these RICO charges. Because in the 70s, of course, we had all the big mafia gangland killings really, really start ramping up. With like Roselli, Giancana, and all the New York family.
Oh yeah, they were all going to the mattresses
80s and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of that went. A lot of guys got killed. A lot of those dudes.
So it wouldn't surprise me if Mark Lane was appointed or inserted himself into that facet of law. To who knows? Maybe control the other side of things.
More gatekeeping.
Kind of did, with other aspects of things.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Rob. That's very interesting stuff.
Yes, sir.
So, do we have emails, my friend?
We have one.
We have one. Well, let's get right to the email. All right. Lay it on me, Rob.
Well, Doug, this one is right up our alley, bud.
Oh, boy.
The title of this email.
This email has a title?
Even though we have only one. Yes. Even though we have only one email this time, and I'm very disappointed in our listeners. Like I said,
you know what happened?
Email us, people.
You know what? I discouraged them from trying to write comedy scripts, and they just dropped off. It's my fault.
Well, thankfully, one stayed aboard.
Is this a previous emailer? Someone who has emailed us previous?
No, it's a new one.
New email.
It's a new one.
Hello, new emailer.
Yeah, we had the title of the email is "Sexual Shenanigans in the JFK Assassination," and this comes from Hugh Anisworth. I thought you'd like that one, Doug.
Oh man, Hugh Anisworth. He's good buddies with Dean Slamdrews, from what I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Greetings. I'm new to your podcast and have been learning a lot about the JFK assassination. Thank you. I've been struck by the number of people directly or involved in the whole thing that seem to have been dabbling in one or more or some of sexual malarkey or another.
Malarkey?
Here's a non-exhaustive...
Sexual malarkey.
Yes.
Sexual malarkey.
Here is a non-exhaustive list of some of those that I learned from your show, and thank you for this.
Deviance? Is that what he means? Sexual deviance?
Apparently.
But deviance is an antiquated term. That's what they would call it, say, in New Orleans in 1963. Sexual deviance. We're much more open-minded nowadays. So I can't really say that, or I'll get even more angry messages. So let me strike that from the record. But he means sexually adventurous folk within the narrative, I suppose.
Yeah, very good way to put it, Doug.
Now, is it Hugh or is it Huge? Is it Huge Anisworth?
No, just Hugh.
I think it's Huge.
It would be funnier if it was huge.
That's why I'm gonna. I've changed it right now. So it's Huge Anisworth.
Okay, here's a list of some sexual malarkey, Doug. Some shenanigans that he learned from our show. JFK and his sexual compulsions. For other ladies other than his wife. RFK also dabbled with the ladies.
They had a lot of love to give.
J. Edgar Hoover and his fondness for ladies' evening wear.
And soy sauce. Now, soy sauce. You'll have to go back and listen to Quick Hits 4 to get that reference. Soy sauce and Hoover.
Clyde Tolson, who helped J. Edgar adjust his girdle.
His boy toy.
Yes. Lyndon Johnson, whose many mistresses put the BJ in LBJ.
Yeah, except for Madeline Brown. She didn't know that, dude. Give me a break. Okay, go ahead.
Oswald, Swishy, supposedly gay, or even a male prostitute in New Orleans.
You know what? I don't think I believe that. I don't believe that about Oswald. You know what?
I don't know.
I think that's probably just a bunch of bullshit.
Did you hear that episode of the Lone Gunman called "I Almost Fucked Lee Harvey Oswald"?
I did. I did. And man,
You
yeah,
never know, man.
that was a little uncomfortable. I just got to say.
Good.
I mean,
that's exactly what I was going for. I love making the listeners uncomfortable.
I know, man. Cringe level Michael Scott right there, buddy.
Yes.
All right,
So then he goes on to say, okay, Marina Oswald, probably a prostitute and or the honey in a trap. Ruth Payne in her adoration of Marina. That's, yeah.
Hey, man, you know that Ira David Wood did that chronology. You know that chronology he did a few years ago? The researcher Ira David Wood. And there are allegedly snippets of letters between Marina, one or two, Marina and Ruth in there. Very explicit sexual letters that are supposedly from one to the other that I've never, ever seen corroboration for. I would love to know where he got that, you know. You know what? I'll make a note to try to rustle those up. Maybe I'll read those on the next quick hit since we're into all this stuff. Malarkey. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Jack Ruby with his bisexual tongue and sex dog Mildred. All those gay Cubans like Carlos Bernier and Carlos Quiroga. I think he means Quiroga.
Let's hope.
Of course, Clay Shaw and the 2-foot dildos lurking in his closet and the bowl of fresh orange segments he kept on his coffee table. David Ferry, need I say more?
You need not.
Perry Russo, Jim Garrison, also said to be gay.
You're a fine-looking man, Mr. Garrison.
Penn Jones for being blackmailed for his homosexual dalliances.
Absolutely slanderizing hearsay. We don't know that.
Wow. Buell Wesley Frazier, who was known to whack his wanger around Dallas, especially with his friends' mothers.
Who hasn't whacked their wanger in Dallas? Come on.
And who hadn't wanted to bang one of their friends' I
mean, I've been to Dallas. I've whacked my wanger in Dallas. It's no big deal. I mean, I was by myself. It was in a private setting. Don't get me wrong, but you know, I'm only human.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Rob, didn't you go to Dallas?
I did.
See?
Yes.
You're gonna tell me you went 3 days? I don't believe that.
Well, the wife went with me, so we're good.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean there wasn't a wanger whacked.
True. Trust me, that conference was a fucking libido killer. God damn, staring at a bunch of old dudes in fucking sweatpants for a weekend will do that to you. All right,
man.
General Edwin round up the old pipe walker. The never to be forgotten Dago.
At this point, the legendary Dago. Let's face it.
Yes. He would just eat him and stuff.
There's Dago, guys. You know, you're going to keep that up, and I'm going to have a lot of good sound bites from Dago. You know what?
Yeah, I was just sitting there in the car with old Jack, and you know, we was just talking and stuff. Then we picked up that girl down there. We drove out to the lake for a little while. I looked in the back seat. Goddamn, he's just back there eating on her and stuff. He wouldn't fuck her, but he's just eating her.
Poor
he used
Jack.
to love it.
Poor Jack. Man. So huge anus worth has what a big list.
J.D. Tippett and his extramarital activity. And I bet there are many more that I've forgotten. Do you guys think this level of sexual shenanigans is unusual? It seems a lot to me, but maybe you had to be involved in some sort of sexual malarkey to take part in the whole thing. Best, Hugh.
Nah, I don't believe that. Because I think the people that did it, that was not a requirement. No, I don't think so. I mean, in all seriousness, I think the people that did it came out of that milieu of the violent paramilitary, anti-Castro exile / mafia / intelligence network nexus. And I don't think they really, a person's trustworthiness, operational trustworthiness, and if you were a member of that clique, that got you the ticket. I don't think sexual proclivity has anything to do with it. It's like, even like what Bugliosi and Posner, that slur against Garrison that Garrison said, it was a homosexual thrill killing. Well, that's bullshit. Jim Garrison never said that. And I don't think there's a correlation, Rob, whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that you have a very eccentric, gay-friendly port city who is they celebrate Mardi Gras every year, where people get crazy. There was a big nightlife. I mean, you got all these sailors coming in off the boat. And what they say about being trapped on a boat with a lot of men for many, many months. It's kind of like jail, sometimes you're gay for the stay, and sometimes it carries over when you get off the boat at the port. You know what I'm saying? And there's lots of undercover homosexuals that flock to that city because it was almost accepted, to be gay and be flamboyant and to be out.
At least within certain quarters of the city.
Right.
Yeah.
It was generally tolerated, much like San Francisco, but came to be on the East Coast for many gays and homosexuals in the 70s and 80s and all of that. Again, a port city, again, just very forward thinking in their acceptance of people's sexual proclivities. And it just so happened you have a lot of these people in New Orleans. So a lot of these characters that we're running into in New Orleans are associated with the Kennedy assassination, just happen to either be gay or have gay friends or have gay clients or whatever the case may be. And that's just the way it is, and, of course, when you run into people like General Walker who were gay, it's just, I mean, things start to get weird to a point, but I think it's just happenstance.
I do too, and I think nowadays, just like back then and nowadays, if you were to just go out, like to a football stadium or something, and just pick 35 random individuals, you're going to find out that maybe there's going to be some of those picadillos. It's going to be the same thing. If you just any cross section of Americans, I think you're going to find, people are doing different things. That's a good way to put that.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Say this, Doug. Like most of the seedier underbelly types, involved around a lot of drinking and drugs, tend to have homosexual proclivities. And so do many of the extremely wealthy, elite types, and for different reasons. They like it because of the power over another man, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I mean, when you're talking about wealthy, elite, powerful type figures in the Kennedy assassination, a good bit of them are going to be homosexual. And when you're talking about the seedier underbelly, lower class, types, of course, a lot more percentage of them are going to be homosexual than others. So again, I think it's just, and like you said, I don't think it was a homosexual thrill kill, has been alleged to have been said, or the Garrison was hunting all these homosexuals in New Orleans.
Very unfair thing to say about Jim Garrison. Very unfair.
I agree. I think it's just a matter of people's lives, what we can uncover as researchers when we really do deep dives into people's associated with the Kennedy assassination. When stones start to be overturned and closets start to be opened and people's lives really come under the microscope, that a lot of these things start to come out.
You're gonna find things.
You're
Yep.
gonna find things, and some things are worse than others.
Yes.
Some people are freakazoids like Mark Lane. So
Allegedly. Allegedly.
Well, allegedly. Even up to J. Edgar Hoover.
Undoubtedly.
So, I think it's just, people are people, and people are very sexual creatures, and people like what they like, and people pursue what they pursue, and it really doesn't have an effect on their so-called views on politics or anything like that. I mean, look at how much of a man's man that General Walker portrayed himself to be, and how much of an anti-communist that he portrayed himself to be, and this guy put on a helmet and went to a college in the United States to perform raids against our own government.
But hey, man, his combat
to prevent segregation.
And look at his combat history in Korea. I mean, nothing to sneeze at, at all.
And
fighting soldier.
He was found guilty of fondling a police officer's balls in a public bathroom in a park.
Yeah, but if you look at, I've studied a lot of Walker, man. If you look at, in Korea, he was a fine soldier. Very brave. Despite whatever craziness he got into later, so I would say, manly for sure. But
don't get to be a general being a pussy.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I agree 100%. So, but I'm sorry I interrupted. You were saying,
unless you fucked the right guy who could make you a general and then blackmailed him. But anyway, I digress.
Let's digress. Well, thank you. What was it? Giant ass,
yes.
Huge Anusworth. Thank you for
Hugh Anusworth. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Huge Anusworth.
And people, for God's sake, email us at QuickHitsJFK with your assassination-related questions and commentary.
Yes, because don't make me have to write a fake email and send it to Rob just so we'll have something to listen to read.
Yeah, we don't make these things up. Like I said, this time we only had one. I swear to God, people think we make these shit up. We don't.
No, we do not. I've never heard them. I've never even read them until you bring them to the show. Actually.
Yeah.
Never even read them. Well, Rob, that's all I had for this edition of the show, episode 20. What about you?
That's it for me, Doug. That's all I got, brother.
All right, man. Well, why don't you start us off first and tell everybody where they can find your fine podcast, sir.
Yes, that would be the Lone Gunman Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at the Lone Gunman 7. You can also find me on Facebook just search for the Lone Gunman Podcast. And you can listen to the show on our platform streaming service, Spreaker, and anywhere that fine podcasts are listened to. So if you're listening to this, chances are pretty good if you search for the Lone Gunman Podcast, it'll pop up too. So do it. Don't be an asshat. And leave a comment and 5 stars. That'd be great. I love you. Thank you.
Hey, guys, you can also find my show, The Dallas Action, presented by Wall Street Window, everywhere you find quality podcasts, from Spreaker to Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and everywhere in between. It is in-depth, it is ongoing, it is detailed study and analysis of the Kennedy assassination. Go find it and listen. So, for Rob Clark, this is Doug Campbell saying, tune in again next time, guys, when upon actually meeting the real self-described Grassy Knoll shooter, James S. Files, in Dealey Plaza, near the stockade fence atop of the Grassy Knoll, back in November of 2019, we'll hear Rob say,
well, hello to you too, you fly-swatting loser.
We are out.
Peace.
Well, hello to you too, you fly-swatting loser.